I was talking to somebody about solar panels, and then they started explaining to me about what the drawbacks of solar panels are, or could be, because of the materials they're made out of and stuff. And so this isn't a very clear question, but it's something in that area about what is alternative technology. How do you figure out what is alternative? You know, there's been all these huge fusses about wind farms and all of that kind of thing. So if you could say a bit more about, I don't know, how we sort all that kind of stuff out, if you know what I'm getting at.
No, I understand what you're saying, because there's been a lot of controversy about solar panels and people saying, well, it takes more energy to make them than you can ever produce by using them. How I look at it is that when you start off something new, it's always got a big downside in terms of the cost, whether that's a financial cost or the environmental cost. And people have seen the vision of what solar panels can do for us that would be very positive, in that we could generate electricity from the sun instead of from fossil or nuclear fuels. But in order to get the technology to do that requires a lot of research, which in our culture means a lot of investment and money. And so certainly the first panels that were made were not very good in terms of environmental issues. They're getting a lot better. But what we're seeing now, because the feed-in tariff has been very successful, what it's actually done is it's boosted the research that's gone into solar panels, and what I think we're going to see is that research will actually result in solar panels that work like plants work, making energy from chlorophyll. It's just that in order to get there, somehow we've got to do that push. Probably somebody has already invented or thought about how that might work, but in terms of the capitalist society, they've been squashed or sidelined or something. But because there's interest now, that will happen. I'm sure it will. And it's a difficult thing. I would take the pragmatic view that there's a lot of things about solar panels that are not good, but in the long term, we'll get there with it. And I personally think it's worth supporting them and using them for community projects and for community generation of electricity, because they will improve. They've improved dramatically in the last 5 years, and because of the feed-in tariff, because of the push to get more people using them, and that in itself generates better research and better ways of doing it. And I'm sure we will end up, plants do it, so we should be able to replicate that at some point.
Right.
I just say, I remember reading 5 or 6 years ago about energy payback time for solar PV. And there were 2 reports, one by the University of Pennsylvania, I think, and there was another in Home Power magazine, there's an American magazine called Home Power magazine. And they came up with a figure between 5 and 6 years to generate the energy that took to make them.
Right.
And they last for 25 years. So even 5 years ago, it seems that they were very good in terms of energy payback. But if you don't mind, Daniel, I think Daniel could probably answer this question a lot better than I could. I've been speaking to him earlier, sorry, but he knows a lot about the subject.
PV not so much, but I mean it's just like you say, like they started off crap and they got better, like anything else, and it's kind of a Moore's law kind of like curve now that they basically double in goodness and various ways of measuring it every couple of years. So it's an exponential uptick while the price is like coming down like an exponential down curve. So it's just that gone through like generation 0 of these things when it was all a bit shit, but now it's really starting to get into very technologically sound territory.
But I mean, what about the kind of chemicals and pollution involved in their manufacture?
Yeah, but that's improving every generation. Uses different processes, like getting into like carbon-based like solar panels now, and like how they're like pigment-based, which just don't require you to like nuke the hell out of silicon at like super high temperatures. Like that's what was required at the time, but then they just discovered better ways of doing it. And I mean that's economically incentivized because it's expensive to put all of that energy into producing solar panels. So if you can make it cheaper by using less energy, then you know it's any company that makes them that way is going to have an economic advantage. And it also happens to use less resources to produce them, which is true of anything. Like I mean, wind turbines getting the same way. Like they're sort of just getting better, like different designs which use less resources and improve, produce more energy and